Okay, thank you. Welcome back, everyone, to Senate Education. Sorry for a little going off for a minute. We are now focused on S304, an act relating to Vermont's career and technical education programs. Ms. St. James, the new draft 3.1, please.
Yes, Beth St. James, Office of Legislative Counsel. You all have draft 3.1 of your committee strike all amendment to S304. Changes between the draft you looked at yesterday, I believe it was, and today are highlighted in yellow. They are minimal. At least the highlighting is. The changes to the bill are actually quite large, and that is because you've removed all of the funding concepts, but there's no highlighting because the language is no longer there. So section 1 remains the same. It's adding those two. We're on page 1, section 1, which is an amendment to section 1541A in Title 16, where we're adding in a new subdivision 4 and a new subdivision 5 on page 2, the requirement that school districts provide career enrichment or exposure to CTE opportunities depending on their grade. Right now, the only requirement is for 11 and 12 to be offered an opportunity to take advantage of CTE education. Subdivision 4 is addressing grades 6 through 8 and requiring career and enrichment exposure. The substance of subdivision 4 has not changed, but the language change here is meant to address the concern that the former language could be read to require an annual visit in 6th grade, and then another annual visit in 7th grade, and then another annual visit in 8th grade. And so I've just split the two concepts into 2 sentences. So a sending district that offers public education shall provide students in grades 6 through 8 with career enrichment and exposure, period. Such exposure shall include visits to or equivalent virtual experiences with the school district's regional career and technical education center. And then this is the new concept, at least once between the grades of 6 and 8.
Got it. And that sounds very much like what the secretary written. Perfect.
And then the next change is if you go to page 9, which is now your second to last page, you'll notice that that's it. The bill stops with it goes right from the post-secondary program alignment, the articulation agreements, to the position on section 8 on page 9 to effective dates. So all of the funding language that we've previously walked through and then all of the conforming amendments based on the funding changes have been removed. Do you want to do high level walkthrough of each section?
High level would be great. Then people can marinate on it and we'll vote on it this one tomorrow.
Great. So we're going to move to, so we've talked about section 1, half of it. On page 2 is the other half, and that is for grades 9 and 10. School districts have to provide a genuine opportunity to participate fully in pre-tech and exploratory CT courses. So section 2 is adding a new statute to the career and tech ed chapter regarding comprehensive career development policy. And so it requires AOE in consultation with the Commissioner of Labor to develop a comprehensive career development policy for all secondary students. And then each school district board is required to develop, adopt, and ensure implementation of a policy and a plan for comprehensive career development that is at least as comprehensive as the model policy developed by AOE. And then if you move to page 3, AOE has to develop that model policy on or before December 1st of this year. And then school districts need to develop and ensure implementation of that policy on or before June 30th, 2025. The next section, section 4, is a little bit of intent language, asking that if the General Assembly asking the General Assembly to ensure that career and technical educations and their centers and their associated facilities are appropriately and equitably included in any updates to the state's school construction aid program.
Right.
Go to page 4. Page 4, you'll see at the very top line 1, the reader assistance heading CTE oversight. Section 5. Section 5 is several sections in the CTE chapter where we're making some amendments to change oversight of career and technical education from the state board to AOE. So anywhere there was a state board responsibility, you'll see state board has been struck and the secretary has replaced that. So that is the statute on responsibility of oversight. So section 1531 on page 4. Section 1532 on page 5. And this is talking about what CTE rules have to have in them by minimum. And then on page 6, section 1533, we're talking about the Career and Technical Center evaluation. Currently, the state board is in charge of that. This would change that to the secretary. And then on page 7, one of the areas that during this evaluation, the secretary would be looking at compliance in, we're adding on page 7, lines 9 and 10. The secretary would be looking for compliance with aligning the program and other center operations to the district quality standards. And there is that language at the end of line 10 that says as applicable, and that is to count for the fact that there are some CTE, the independent career and technical education centers, that are not public schools, and so they would not be subject to the district quality standards.
And that's specifically St. John's Berry Academy.
And Linden, I believe.
Thank you.
And then section on page 7, section 1534, course and study evaluation, again, changing oversight responsibilities from the state board to the secretary. Page 8, section 6 is transfer of rulemaking authority. This is just some fancy standard language when we are transferring rulemaking authority from one state agency or department to another. So you have to transfer the authority to adopt those rules. So we're transferring the authority from the state board to AOE. Then we're transferring the rules to themselves, from one entity to another. And then we are asking the Agency of Education in subsection C, line 12, to provide notice of the transfer of those rules and authority to the Secretary of State in LCAR. Page 8, section 7, we're adding a section to, again, the CTE chapter, post-secondary program alignment. This is requiring all CTEs to have course program and course articulation agreements with the Vermont State Colleges Corporation in specific programs, and that's on page 9, manufacturing, engineering, health sciences, education, and carpentry, construction, and building trades. And then on page 9, the last substantive section is the full-time permanent classified CTE education programs coordinator position and an associated appropriation. I believe this is the position that is also in the budget.
Thank you. Yes, it was confirmed with Secretary Boucher.
So that will be something to just watch, and I assume when this goes through appropriations, they'll deal with it there, but it is just something to watch to make sure that we're rectifying that. And then the whole act, the whole bill would take effect on July 1, 2024.
It was in the governor's budget.
Governor's budget, yep. And so this, if we voted out tomorrow, it would go to folks probably end of next week. Several weeks would go in, take them through it, and I'm gonna have the Agency of Education to be there as well, just so that they can justify and help walk through why we're making these shifts. Because a lot of this is the governor's request. Makes sense. Okay, Senator Kulik.
Yeah, I think it all makes sense. And we know the governor seems to be a big fan and proponent of CTE. So if these are changes that he supports, then I think we should support them too.
Yeah, and I'll just mention again, we had another conversation with folks in ag, folks from John Deere and some other companies today, and they too, like to see us do more with CTEs in general, so. Okay. All right, so we'll take a vote on this tomorrow. If anybody needs to hear from somebody else, let us know. Let me go grab Senator Hashim, since this is his bill, so he might want to be in the room when we do this.
Let me go.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, no, let me grab him, because he's in the middle. If you just take us off for a second. Thanks.
Yeah, you tell me to go.